They caught him slipping on 109th Street, a quiet summer night. A dark BMW rolls through. Muzzle flashes light up a front yard. By morning, one of South LA's most respected names was lying cold in the grass. No one knew for sure who greenlit the hit, but on the block, everybody felt it coming. And by the time his casket dropped, the streets were already whispering, 100 days, 100 nights. Thing is, once those words hit the timeline, the city ain't been the same since. Before hashtags, before the helicopters, before the police posted up at his funeral like it was a crime scene, KP was just Kenneth Peavy. He grew up right there in the Westmont section of South LA, around the 1600 block of West 109th Street. Same block where he took his last breath. Born and raised, never really left. Everybody in the neighborhood knew him. Older folks called him a good kid who turned into a solid young man. But to his homies, he was KP from the Rollin' Hundreds. Specifically, the original Block Crips, sometimes known as the Black Crips. The Hundreds got history. They not no fly-by-night set. And KP, he wasn't no background figure either. Word is, he put in real work, earned stripes. But even so, by 2015, he wasn't just outside every day looking for funk. He had shifted gears a little. People close to him say things changed when his son was born. KP was a father of 3, and he'd started pulling back from active banging. He was coaching Pop Warner football, talking about getting a trade, staying busy with his kids. That's not to say he was disconnected. Nah, you can leave the lifestyle, but the lifestyle don't always leave you. He was still tapped in with the Rollin' Hundreds, still slid through for the homies, still repped his corner. Thing is, when you a well-known figure in the hood, even regular moves ain't regular. A few weeks before he got hit, KP had gotten into a squabble. Just hands, no burners. Someone filmed it. Next thing, that video goes up on his Instagram. It wasn't just any fight. Word on the street was he beat up somebody from the other side. Didn't name names, but the caption spoke loud enough. And in neighborhoods where pride can be more dangerous than pistols, that kind of post don't just go away. People said he was too loud about it. Others said he didn't post it to flex, just didn't care who saw it. Either way, the clip went viral in the local circles, and that made him a target. But was that really the reason? Or was it deeper? Some folks say KP got caught in a beef that had been simmering for years, one that had nothing to do with him personally, but everything to do with the colors he wore and the clique he repped. See, tensions between the Rollin' Hundreds and the Hoovers had been boiling for a minute. A couple bodies had already dropped earlier that summer. People were on edge. Turf lines got thinner. Everyone was looking over their shoulder. KP wasn't new to it, but he might have been too comfortable that night. July 17th, 2015, he was walking down 109th, supposedly on his way to meet a friend. No strap on him, no crew, just him. That's when the black BMW pulled up. But before we get into that night, we got to talk about what made it explode into something way bigger than just one body. Because after KP dropped, the whole city started buzzing like something new was in the air, something real dark. They called it 100 days, 100 nights. And whether it was fact or fiction, it moved like prophecy. In South Central, some beefs go back decades. This ain't no quick fallout or street argument over a dice game. The Rollin' Hundreds and the Hoovers been locked in since the 90s. And once the blood gets spilled, it don't just dry up, it builds. Let's set the table. The Rollin' Hundreds Crips, sometimes called the Rich Rollin' Hunnits, is a tight clique made up of multiple sets. The 111 Neighborhood Crips, the Underground Block Crips, the Original Block Crips, KP's set, and a few others in that low hundreds range between roughly 102nd to 120th Streets. These sets fall under the Neighborhood Crip umbrella, which means they got deep ties with other NHC-aligned gangs all across LA. So if you hit one of them, best believe others might slide. But on the other side, you got the Hoovers. They used to be Crips back in the early 1970s. Then the whole identity shifted. Sometime in the 90s, after funking with damn near every other Crip set around, they dropped the flag. Just like that. No more blue, no more unity. They rebranded as Hoover Criminals. That's when things got reckless. Now, Hoover sets like the 52 Hoover Gangster Crips, 74 Hoover, 107, and 112 Hoover Criminals started pushing slogans like EBK and ABK, Everybody Killer, All Bloods Killer. That wasn't just for show. They wasn't trying to keep friends. If you wasn't with them, you was food, period. In particular, the 107 and 112 Hoovers had it out bad with the Rollin' Hundreds. That war was active, ongoing. They shared turf around the Vermont corridor. near Century Boulevard and 109th Street. That's not just a neutral zone, that's a battlefield. Both sets had cliques moving through there. One wrong hoodie, one bad stare, and it could turn fatal. The Hoovers earned a rep for being aggressive with everybody. Some folks said they had a hard time getting along with anyone except the Main Street Mafia Crips, and even that alliance didn't last. In 2009, a party dispute between Hoovers and Main Streets, something light like a joke or a line about somebody's girl, turned into a shootout. 3 dead. One was a 7th grader who got caught in the crossfire while buying balloons at a swap meet. That kind of tells you the temperature. With KP and the hundreds posted up in a zone overlapping Hoover turf, things were always tense. Both sides had young heads ready to move. You didn't need an order, just a reason. And in 2015, that reason came fast. Even before KP got hit, tensions were rising again. That summer, the LAPD had seen gang-related crime creeping back up in South LA after a few years of relative quiet. Retaliation shootings started bubbling in the background. Most didn't make the news, but in the neighborhood, people noticed the vibe shift. Cars slow rolling, eyes watching, enemies clocking moves. KP's death wasn't the start of the beef. It was just the moment it boiled over. It was a quiet night, just past midnight in Westmont, an unincorporated part of LA County. KP was walking down West 109th Street, just a few blocks from home. According to reports, he had made plans to meet a friend on the block. What KP didn't know was that somebody was already out there waiting. At exactly 12:45 a.m., a dark-colored BMW started creeping up the street. 4 men were inside. Surveillance footage shows the car slowing down, 2 men hopping out with pistols in hand. One of the shooters raised his arm. Flashes lit up the driveway. Muzzle bursts. 5 shots in total. KP tried to run. They chased him down a driveway and caught him in the yard. Then they vanished, back into the BMW, into the darkness. By the time deputies arrived, it was too late. KP was lying face down in the grass with multiple gunshot wounds to the torso. He was pronounced dead at 7:34 a.m. Witnesses told the sheriff's department the shooters were young black men, all in their early 20s. Their identities weren't immediately known, but investigators suspected what everyone on the block already believed. It was Hoover business. And yet, detectives weren't convinced KP was personally targeted. According to the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Homicide Bureau, it might have been a crime of opportunity. They believed the shooters were looking for any young African-American man to murder as part of an ongoing gang conflict. But nobody on the street believed that version, not after what went up on his Instagram. A few days before the hit, KP had posted the video of that fight, him swinging hands on somebody tied to the Hoovers. The video spread fast. It wasn't just about a beatdown, it was about humiliation. In that world, that kind of embarrassment don't go unanswered. Word was the Hoovers saw the video, got in their feelings, and decided to move. Not next week, not with warnings, just get up on him and press play. Still, KP didn't roll with the deep squad that night. No backup, no burner on him. Maybe he didn't think they'd pull up, or maybe he thought he was just going out for a regular link up. But South Central don't work like that. The shooters used precision, the car, the timing, the footwork. They moved like it was planned. 4 deep in a BMW in rival territory, just after midnight. That don't sound random. It sounds like somebody knew he'd be outside. After the body was found, the block went silent, but not for long. Within hours, his homies, affiliates, and local heads started reacting, not just in person, but online. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. The same streets that watched KP's last fight were now flooded with cryptic posts and threats. Then came a single image, a South LA map with Rollin' 100 territory marked in red. The words on top read, 100 days, 100 nights. Nobody knew who posted it first, but everybody felt it, a challenge, a bet, a warning. Kill one of ours, we kill 100 of yours. It didn't matter if it was just online talk, because in LA, even internet smoke can get real fast. And the way the block felt after KP got laid down, people knew something was coming. They just didn't know how far it would go. When the sun came up over West 109th that morning, folks already knew what had gone down. The block was quiet, but it wasn't peace. It was pressure. Word moved fast. KP from the hundreds got caught slipping. The streets ain't like TV. There's no press conference, no suspects in cuffs, but the code is written loud in the silence. And in South LA, when someone like KP gets dropped, people don't just light candles and move on. They start whispering. Some whisper grief, some whisper payback. The neighborhood wasn't new to loss, but this one hit different. KP wasn't a nobody. He wasn't some random face in the crowd. He was respected, on the block, in the set, and even by folks outside the gang world. And he was a coach, a dad, someone who tried to find his balance between hood loyalty and real life. His death didn't just hit the rolling hundreds, it rattled South Central. A few days later, they held his funeral. But this wasn't your average homegoing. That cemetery was surrounded, uniforms everywhere. Police from 3 different agencies showed up to stand watch. To some folks, it looked like overkill. To others, it was confirmation that the city knew what kind of storm KP's death had stirred up. And while people were laying him to rest in suits and black dresses, social media was starting to move with a whole different energy. That's when the whispers turned digital. The first post didn't come from an official source. It never does. It was just a blurry screenshot of a map. No face, no caption, just turf in red, and across the top, 100 days, 100 nights. Then came another post, body for body, ain't no passes. Another one, Western and Normandy, don't drive through after dark. And just like that, the whispers got a name. People started saying the Rolling Hundreds and the Hoovers were in a kill contest, each trying to catch 100 bodies in 100 nights. It sounded like something out of a horror movie or a YouTube conspiracy, but the way folks were acting, it didn't feel fake. Instagram stories turned into warning signs. Maps of South Central with gang territories highlighted, captions like, "Better keep your head on a swivel out here." Local blogs picked it up, then LA news stations, then national headlines. 100 days, 100 nights, is South LA under siege? LAPD went on tactical alert. More patrols in high conflict areas. Community leaders got called into late night meetings. Gang intervention workers started knocking on doors trying to calm things down. But what nobody could agree on was this. Was the 100 days, 100 nights thing even real? LAPD Deputy Chief Bill Scott said it plain. There's no solid evidence this is an organized challenge. He called it an echo chamber, social media noise bouncing around until it sounded like fact. Still, he admitted, don't get me wrong, the violence is real. Because just days after KP was laid down, bullets started flying. People started dropping. Not one a night, but enough to make you wonder. And in the hood, it ain't about what's official. It's about what people feel. And right then, South Central felt like it was under attack. The streets emptied out after dark. Kids weren't allowed on porches past sunset. Block parties got canceled. Church services moved to daylight hours. Shop owners started closing early, some without even locking up. They just wanted out. Even if nobody ever saw a hit list or found evidence of a bet, the fear was real. Because every few nights, another siren wailed through the city. Another family got that call. Community leaders tried to push back on the narrative. Kev Mack, a well-known gang historian and former banger, said, "Old school gangbangers don't advertise their work. Why would you post your moves online?" He had a point. But this wasn't old school anymore. This was viral beef and the kind of paranoia that spreads faster than facts. Even respected gang interventionist Ronaldo Reeser, who worked directly with crews in the Vermont corridor, said it best, "No one sanctioned that plan, but the streets believed it anyway." And once the streets believe something, that belief becomes law. People start shooting because they think they're supposed to, or because they don't want to be the ones caught slipping when the challenge is still on. So was 100 days, 100 nights real? Depends on what you mean. Maybe there wasn't an actual scoreboard, but real people got hit, real shells hit concrete, and the fear, that was enough to make folks move like it was a war. And the worst part, the first body hadn't even been in the ground a full week yet, and already it felt like South Central was counting down something bigger. What came next would turn those whispers into headlines. KP got dropped in the early hours of Friday, July 17th, 2015. By that weekend, South LA was already bleeding. It started slow, whispers, online posts, tension you could feel in the air. Then the guns came out. On Thursday, July 23rd, it got real. Around 9:50 p.m. on West 99th Street, a mother sat in her car with her 2 sons, ages 4 and 11. They weren't banging. They weren't even outside the car. They were parked, just trying to get home. Out of nowhere, a shooter walked up and opened fire. No warning, no words, All three were hit. They survived, but one of the kids had to be rushed into surgery. The shooter vanished into the night like nothing happened. No name, no ID, just gone. Then came Saturday, July 25th. The day South LA truly felt like it stepped into a war zone. Around 4 p.m. at the intersection of 81st and Hoover, a man pulled up next to another car and dumped a full clip. The victim, Anthony Alonzo Cudger, 47 years old, not a gang member, no known affiliations. He was just there. Cudger took multiple shots behind the wheel. His Honda crashed into a pole. He was pronounced dead on the scene. Less than an hour later, 4:45 p.m., just a few miles away at 75th and Figueroa, another man in his 40s got hit while driving. He somehow managed to drive himself to a hospital, wounded but alive. The shooter, long gone before cops even showed up, and it didn't stop there. 9 p.m., Hyde Park Boulevard, another shooting. 9:35 p.m., 47th and Budlong, 3 people shot walking down the sidewalk. 2 men and 1 woman. One of them was in critical. A little after midnight, now early Sunday, July 26th, a drive-by. Another man shot in the car. He caught a round in the hip and barely managed to explain what happened. By sunrise, police scanners had logged at least 7 separate shootings in 24 hours, with 1 dead and 12 wounded. If you were in South LA that weekend, it felt like the rumors weren't just rumors anymore. They were moving. And with every shooting, the hashtag #100 days, 100 nights started looking less like a threat and more like a schedule. By the end of that first violent weekend, folks weren't debating whether it was real anymore. It felt real. People were getting hit, kids were getting grazed, men were dying at intersections. But ask LAPD, they were still hesitant to tie it all together. Deputy Chief Bill Scott told community leaders, "We don't have proof there's a coordinated plan, but we're treating it like there could be." He wasn't wrong to play it cautious. In the old days, gang wars started face to face. Somebody got into it at a party. A fight broke out at a park. Somebody got caught on the wrong side of the tracks. That was the setup. The trigger came next. But this was different. It started with a video, then came a hit, then came a hashtag. Now it was out of everyone's hands. The OGs didn't co-sign it. Community elders said they'd never heard of an organized challenge between Hoovers and Rollin' Hundreds. But the new generation didn't wait for green lights. When the pressure's on and the internet's watching, every shooter wants to be the next headline. The fear spread faster than bullets. Even rumors were moving people to action. One gang historian said it like this: social media gives someone insecure about their rep a platform. A young shooter can get famous overnight now. That's new. And that kind of pressure, it made it hard for anyone to walk away. Even those who wanted peace, who had seen too much already, couldn't control the younger heads. The momentum had already shifted. One thing that made it worse, the randomness. Anthony Cudger wasn't banging. The woman shot on 47th Street was just walking home. The mom in the car had 2 kids in the back seat. If you was in the wrong zone, wearing the wrong color, or even looked like you might be with the other side, you could get hit. That's what made it different. That's what made it stick. A fake challenge doesn't need to be real to be deadly. It just needs to feel real. And in South LA, those first few nights felt like the beginning of something way bigger. The Rollin' Hundreds weren't on Twitter arguing. They were outside. The Hoovers weren't posting threats. They were sliding. And the city was stuck in between, watching something that started online turn into something nobody could stop. In the aftermath of the July shootings, one name kept echoing through the chaos: KP. Not just as a victim, but as a symbol. For the Rollin' Hundreds, KP wasn't just another homie lost to the war. He was the one, a face that stood for the whole block, a presence that meant more than just stripes earned in the streets. KP's death turned personal for his set, and for some, retaliation wasn't optional. It was expected. People close to him said he wasn't even heavy in the field anymore, that he had slowed down, focused on his kids, on coaching, on staying out of trouble. But to his enemies, it didn't matter. He still wore the flag, still had weight in the streets, still repped Rollin' Hundreds. So when that video hit Instagram, and when that BMW spun the block and took him out, it sent a message. And that message got returned quick. After KP got laid down, several shootings were traced back to what people were calling KP payback. In some cases, shooters were yelling his name before letting off shots. In others, posts online showed tributes with captions like, "You ain't die for nothing." To the rolling hundreds, KP became martyr status, but here's where it gets complicated. On the street, death always echoes in two directions. While one side uses it as fuel, the other side sees it as proof they struck a nerve. And in the eyes of the Hoovers, especially younger members, it was a win. A big homie from the other side got touched on his own block. That kind of hit don't go unnoticed, so instead of slowing things down, KP's murder gave both sides a reason to double down. The hundreds moved with vengeance, the Hoovers moved with pride, and everybody in the middle, they braced for what was next. But what nobody expected was how far it would go or how public it would get, because in the weeks that followed, the shootings didn't stop. They got more frequent, more random, more deadly. And behind it all, KP's face stayed in the background, on t-shirts, on murals, on digital flyers with angel wings. He was gone, but now he was everywhere. August hit hard. In the first few days alone, multiple shootings rocked South LA. Some were classic retaliation, targeted hits back and forth between known enemies, others straight chaos. People getting shot at red lights, outside liquor stores, driving with their kids in the car. On August 11th, 2015, a crew tied to the Rolling Hundreds allegedly went on a shooting spree. Prosecutors would later say they were looking for Hoover targets, specifically what they called a rampage. But it didn't stop there. That same month, Los Angeles recorded 39 homicides citywide. Nearly half of those were in South LA. To put that in perspective, LAPD said it was the deadliest August since 2007. In the 77th Street Division, which covers a big chunk of Rolling 100 and Hoover territory, detectives said they hadn't seen that many murders in 1 month in 5 years. It got so bad that LAPD Chief Charlie Beck called August a horrible month, flat out. He said gang violence was the main driver, that it was outpacing the department's ability to respond. Still, even with bodies dropping almost daily, nobody could say for sure how many of those shootings were part of the so-called 100 days, 100 nights. Some looked like gang hits, others looked like road rage, some were just random. That's what made it hard to separate fact from myth. But in the community, the scoreboard didn't matter. Whether it was the 7th shooting or the 70th, people were moving like the challenge was real. And that fear changed everything. Cops stopped trying to downplay it. They went into overdrive. Gang suppression teams flooded the Vermont corridor. Unmarked cars started rolling deeper. Undercover units got greenlighted. Surveillance picked up. Behind closed doors, something else was forming too, a task force. Quietly, LAPD pulled in help from the LA County Sheriff's Department, the ATF, and US Marshals. They weren't just trying to control the violence anymore. They were trying to dismantle the sets behind it. And even though they didn't announce it publicly, insiders knew who they were targeting. The main war was between the Rolling Hundreds, plus an East Side Crip ally, versus the 5 Deuce Hoovers. There were rumors the Main Street Crips were also in the mix, but their role was murkier. The war lines were drawn, and the task force was building cases. But on the block, the cops weren't the focus. It was still about KP, still about revenge, still about sliding before the other side got you first. Every weekend brought more chaos. Another candlelight vigil, another drive-by, another name added to a growing list. By October, nearing the end of the so-called 100 nights, it wasn't clear whether the challenge was still active, but that didn't matter. The damage was done. What started as a targeted hit in July had turned into one of LA's bloodiest summers in years. And it all traced back to that one moment on 109th Street. One car, 4 shooters, 5 bullets, 1 man laid down, and the whole city caught fire. By the time October rolled around, South LA was drained. Too many shootings, too many close calls, too many people ducking behind cars or rushing their kids indoors. Even the OGs were saying the block hadn't felt this tense in a minute. So LAPD stopped playing defense. Behind the scenes, a multi-agency task force had already been moving. It included the LAPD, Los Angeles County Sheriff's Office, ATF, US Marshals, and county prosecutors. The goal? Shut down the Rolling 100 versus Hoover war before it swallowed more of the city. They started quietly building files, watching certain names, tracing burner accounts, tapping known hangouts. The streets stayed hot, but now the heat wasn't just from rivals, it was from law enforcement. By December 2016, more than a year after KP's death, 38 people had been arrested, and 29 charged with crimes ranging from murder to attempted murder, conspiracy, and firing at occupied vehicles. The names included key shooters tied to KP's killing, as well as others linked to retaliations that followed. LAPD didn't make a big show out of it, no press event, no front page reveal, but KP's family posted online, "His killers have been caught." It was quiet confirmation that justice, at least legally, was moving behind closed doors. Authorities believed the takedowns hit the core shooters responsible for the violence that summer, and while the indictments didn't stop every bullet in South Central, they did slow the movement. That task force, they said, dealt a severe blow to the cliques fueling the war. But even with arrests made and suspects locked up, nobody on the block felt like it was over. Because what the streets lost wasn't just bodies. They lost time, they lost peace, and some of that loss couldn't be fixed with the case number. When it was all said and done, hash 100 days, 100 nights didn't officially rack up 100 bodies, but try telling that to the people who lived through it. Try telling that to the kids who heard gunshots in their sleep, to the moms who stopped letting their sons ride bikes after dark, to the folks who walked around with their heads on a swivel for 3 straight months. Because this wasn't about the numbers, it was about the atmosphere. The fear was real. The silence in the streets after sundown, the way people side-eyed every car that crept too slow, that didn't come from myth. That came from the trauma of watching your neighborhood turn into a battlefield again. Even today, people still debate if the challenge was ever official. Was there a literal bet between the hundreds and the Hoovers? Did someone really say, "Let's catch 100 bodies"? Maybe not. Maybe it was just talk that spiraled. But in hoods like South LA, perception can move faster than proof. The myth of 100 days, 100 nights turned real because people believed it. And when you believe you're in a war, you act like it. You shoot first, you don't wait, you don't ask questions. And somewhere in that fog, KP became more than just a victim. He became the face of the fuse, the spark that lit one of LA's darkest summers in recent memory. His name lives on in murals, hashtags, RIP shirts. To his family, he's still Kenneth Peavy, a father, a brother, a son. To the streets, he's still KP from the rolling hundreds, respected, loved, gone too soon. But the truth is, KP's story ain't just about gangs. It's about what happens when tension, pride, grief, and internet rumors all mix in a pressure cooker. The kind of storm that starts with a bullet and ends with a city holding its breath. Appreciate you watching till the end. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more.